We were trying to deal with engagement as opposed to alienation. We were trying to have teachers work with a small number of kids, 60 kids, rather than 175 kids a day. We were trying to get smaller groups for teachers than to be a group of teachers working with about 400 kids. So they could come to know those kids, and we could change the curriculum so that the same teacher taught several subjects to the same group of kids, which meant you saw the kids for a longer period of time. In change process terms, if we had said to the whole school, guess what, you get to work intensely with a small group of kids, we would have lost. We couldn't have convinced the whole school. So we asked who wanted among the teachers to work in the 9th grade house. In a sense, they were volunteers. We also, as a second strategy, brought in a bunch of new, younger teachers who were quite different from the teachers who'd been there before. These were kids with degrees from Ivy League and East Coast universities, major universities. In one sense, they didn't know a lot about teaching, so it was a risk. But what they brought was a different perspective of an intense caring about kids, even if they didn't know exactly what to do. And they brought in a lot more subject knowledge. I mean, the math teachers knew the math. And that changed then in the 9th grade, the teaching that went on with the 9th grade kids. We decided to start with them because if we could help them settle down and get engaged, it would mean we could keep more of them and work over the grades. The strategy was 9th grade the first year, 9th and 10th the second year. But we set it up in a kind of rolling, learn from our early efforts, have some early wins, so that in the time we got to the 10th grade, we could have brought more teachers in, but we would have known more what we wanted to do. If we had taken a vote in the 9th grade house about the 3rd week or the 4th week of the fall, the teachers, even in the house, probably would have voted us down. It was too tough. The kids didn't like it at first either. They were saying to Judy, Dr. Cotting, I feel like I'm locked up in this building. And in a sense, they were. The typical California high school has lots of separate buildings, and the houses were each on the 2nd floor of a major one of these buildings. The kids were caught. But as the more the kid talked, the more we realized what the kid was uncomfortable with was having to be at school, work hard, be known by adults. Parent was connected in a positive way. The more we talked, the more we thought we were winning.
She would spend hours of time conferencing with people after visiting their classes and observing what they were doing in the classroom, literally sitting there for a long time. And in most cases, people didn't understand when she conferenced with them what was wrong with what they were doing, because they had never known any other way. And so when she talked to them about not reading at students and not just having them do rote assignments or copying out of books or copying, off of the board, that was very difficult for them. And I think it's fair to say about Judy that she tried desperately to provide the help for them, the support, the ability to learn to do things other ways, but when that didn't happen, she took the steps that she had to do. She did it by persistence in observing them, pointing out to them what wasn't right and what wasn't wrong. In some cases, staff that were of retirement age retired. In the other cases, sadly, because of the size of the district, they were able to put in a transfer and went to other schools where they found a safe haven for them. But one way or another, she was able to dramatically change that faculty. And as people left, she, of course, had the wherewithal and the gift to interview and select people who were the very best. And so she began to develop a faculty deep in knowledge and deep in strategies and deep in their love and passion for children. Judy spent a lot of time talking with students, and the students were probably the most revealing about what happened in their classrooms and what didn't happen, how lost they felt at the school, how they felt teachers didn't care about them. And so the student voice was always and remained all the time that she was there a real informant for Judy's decision and the sort of the process that she undertook. What struck me in the first year is the tenacity with which she approaches her work. She doesn't give up. She had a softer side to her during the first year. The tougher side gradually began to emerge, and that was necessary when resistance began to build up and the blockers began to make themselves apparent. I think the other aspect about Judy that was pretty striking was what a hard worker she is. And she would be at work in the office between 6:30, 6:45 in the morning. She would work tirelessly through the day. I mean, leaving on a regular day before 5 or 5:30 was unusual. And so that was very unusual, and I don't mean to say that other principals didn't work hard, but she had a work ethic that was extraordinary. The woman that we assigned there at Pasadena High School as her new assistant principal had a similar ethic, so that sort of was a nice partnership. One of the mistakes that I would say Judy made, and I'm not sure that this was a correctable mistake given the mission and given her personality and her style. I think the mistake was that if one needed this much patience, she had this much. And when she got to the end of the rope, it may have been too early to get to the end of the rope, and she would just get ticked off and would just move ahead and do what she had to do. And while time wasn't on her side or a leader's side who's in that position, I think sometimes you have to take that time. But she saw the imperative to make changes for students so intense that when her patients got to this end of the rope instead of here, she did what she had to do. And so I think that ticked people off. I think it was a mistake, if it's correctable, that, in a sense, didn't help her to win the popularity contest. Not that she was there to win a popularity contest, but I think it was more often than not, it turned people off rather than sort of turned them on. The central office responded to Judy, I think, in different ways. The superintendent and the deputy superintendent were absolutely delighted that they hired her because they saw the same qualities that I observed that I think go hand in hand with what a true leader is. I think they found her different because she didn't take no for an answer. And sometimes I think that her sort of tenacity in not taking no for an answer was for them a little uncomfortable. They had to deal with 3 other high schools, all of which had different types of leaders, different personalities. And they had, from their position and positions, to balance that. But I think they wanted her to succeed, and so were supportive. I think, to be honest, for the majority of the central office, they found her tenacity and her determination sort of offensive because they didn't recognize it about the school or the kids. I think they recognized it as a pushy sort of person who just wanted whatever she wanted without understanding that the focus of her work and the focus of what she was asking for was for the benefit of the students.